Open up. Welcome to our wine club wine of the month tasting.
Yay!
Today we are tasting this bottle. This is the Pinot Grigio from Villa Corniole. I know at least a few people on the live have this bottle in their possession, so hopefully we can have an interactive tasting with this. So I'll give a quick intro to the producer. Stacy will talk about the Trentino region a little bit, and then we'll taste the wine and see what we think about it. So the producer, Villa Corniole, they are a family producer. They are in the Trentino region, in the very north of Italy. And actually, Stacy, I'm going to let you talk about that so as to not steal your thunder. That it is a husband and wife team. It is Onario's the father and his wife Maddalena, and there are 3 daughters also that are involved: Sarah, Linda, and Sabina. Sabina is our contact. Sabina actually found me through Instagram, and we began a dialogue, and next thing you know, hello Keisha, welcome. And we have hello, this is Vic, welcome. And we have one other person there, DBF 05021970. Welcome. Glad to have everybody here, part of our tasting. As I was saying, Sabina found me through Instagram, found us through Instagram. We began a dialogue, got some samples, and next thing you know, we placed an order for some pallets. And it's a great family. Onorio and Maddalena tend the vines, as do the 3 daughters, but the 3 daughters also look after the business interests. Sabina in particular is the commercial contact from the winery. And they have a winemaker, actually, that makes the wines. His name is Mattia Clementi. He is an expert winemaker, particularly when it comes to the white wines. And the result of that is that they've got their names in this here book, which is the Gambero Rosso Guide to Italian Wines. It's this thick, and this is the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Italian wines. The important thing in this book is that there are 457 wines that are given the Tre Bicchieri designation, which means 3 glasses. Villa Corniole has not received Tre Bicchieri recognition yet. They've gotten 2 glasses, but much like Michelin stars, you would imagine they're on that way to eventually getting that 3rd glass for one of their wines. And so welcome, Cindy from the Wine Affair. Glad you could join us. And I almost forgot a really important family member. His name is Doc. Doc is Il Cane Tedesco, German Shepherd. He's the family dog. I'm not exactly sure what Doc's job is yet, but hopefully I will find out upon visiting the winery. So the Pellegrini family is the family behind Villa Corniole. We're happy to work with them, and we're happy to represent them here in Maryland. So Stacy, I'll turn it over to you and speak a little bit about Trentino.
Yeah, so Trentino is the region that our Pinot Grigio is from, but more likely than not, if you're drinking a Pinot Grigio, you've probably seen one that says Trentino Alto Adige. So that tends to be kind of a catch-all bucket for this region. However, they're 2 distinct territories just combined into one. So the Alto Adige part is the German area. It's, Sabina was telling me if you go there, they'll have signs in German. You will likely be spoken to in German. And their winemaking style is kind of more Germanic, I guess. And then the Trentino area is the Italian part. And so there you'll see the Italian culture, Italian language more prevalent. So the area of Trentino is in the northwest. And so it's up at the top at the base of the Dolomites, at the foothills of the Dolomites, which is the Alps. And so it's got alpine growing conditions. And what else was I going to say about them? Oh, so it's kind of remarkable that wines kind of grow in this area, but in the summertime, it gets warm enough just so that the grapes can ripen. It's great for white wines. Pinot Grigio is big there. Pinot Bianco is also big there. Mueller Turgau. So, um, yeah. Oh, and the fun thing, if you're wondering where Adige comes from, Adige is the river. It's the second longest river in Italy, and it runs through the area. So, yeah.
Well said. Good, great overview of the region. It's an up and coming region, and it's exciting, and we're happy to have a presence there. And I'll
And the
say,
Trentino, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say Trentino itself, just the Trentino territory, the DOC got nominated or got an award from Wine Spectator last year as their region of the year. So that's pretty cool that they're getting the spotlight and not Trentino Alto Adige.
They are one to look out for. Had some cool varietals that hopefully we'll get into as we expand our presence here. But in addition to the Pinot Grigio, which we have here, they also have the Ramato, which is a skin contact version of a Pinot Grigio that gives it a slight orange color. And they also have traditional varietals of the region, including Mueller Thurgau, Gewürztraminer as white wines, and also Lagrange and Teroldego from the red wines. So some exciting things there, and hopefully in our future. For tonight, we will talk about the Pinot Grigio, and I would ask those of you in the audience, if you haven't been able to find the Villa Corniole example that we have here, hopefully you found another Pinot Grigio that you can drink. A couple misperceptions that I'll dispel off the bat. Pinot Grigio sometimes can be perceived as sweet. It is not a sweet wine. It's actually a very dry wine. It is fruit forward, and for that reason, some people can kind of see the fruitiness as sweetness, but it's actually very dry when it comes to residual sugar. It's also crisp. Another misconception is that they're not that interesting, and there probably are a lot of mass market versions that are not. But when you get into the small producer, you can find some really well-made Pinot Grigios. And this one in particular is a different Pinot Grigio. It kind of speaks to those rugged Dolomites and those mountain breezes, and we'll talk about that. As part of our education, we like to talk about not only the wine, but an element of how to taste wine. Tonight, our focus will be on how we perceive acidity. So as Stacy and I go through that, we'll talk about how we perceive acidity. And then I would ask anybody who has Pinot Grigio, this one or another, please type in the comment box any impressions that you have for what you're tasting, because we'd like to have some dialogue about that. So with that, Stacy, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and taste the wine.
Sure, okay. So the color that I get, nice lemon. It's a little bit of a deeper color for Pinot Grigio. Usually they're kind of watery. On the nose, I get citrus, I get some stone fruit, I get a lot of like saline kind of coming off of it. And then, like you were saying, dry wine, medium plus to high acidity. It's not tannic because it doesn't see any skin contact. It is, I would say, medium alcohol. Yeah, and just white floral notes. Lemon, lime, some peach, some apricot. The body is actually what's catching my attention with this wine. Usually, like you were saying, Pinot Grigios can be, I hate to say uninteresting, but sometimes they get categorized as that. Or they can be like, I guess referred to as watery. But this one actually has some body to it and some weight behind it. I think the quality is great, and definitely you guys should, if you find a bottle, you should get some.
Well described.
What do you think?
Very good rundown. Well, I want to ask about acidity. What do you think of the acidity on this?
So actually, that's why I was laughing when I was talking to you. Is I said it was medium plus to high, because the way that I learned to kind of gauge acidity in a wine is if you take a sip of it and then you know, like swallow it, and then after you'll start to kind of salivate, depending on how high the acid is. And even if you were to like tilt your head down, you can feel the saliva. That sounds really gross, but that's true. You can feel it like kind of starting to like drip down. And so usually like the more you salivate, or the more I salivate, it's kind of indicative of a higher acid wine. And so, yeah, if you drink a wine that's high acid and next thing you know, like your mouth is super watery, like that's kind of an indicator of high acid.
Yeah, that's. I think that's a pretty classic way to describe or to determine acidity, or evaluate acidity in a wine. And this is indeed definitely on the higher side of the acidity. My perception. So you know, as you said, the appearance is a little bit more of a deeper color than what you would typically see in a Pinot Grigio. It has a relatively complex aroma profile. You get the citrus, the lemon, a little bit of a green apple, but the salinity and the minerality also stand out, and you do get that floral note also. It's a fairly intense aroma. The citrus, when I taste, I get actually a pretty ripe citrus character. It's bright, but it's ripe. I do get that touch of salinity in it that you describe, and definitely get the minerality. As I'm speaking, it's still lingering on the palate. Love the balance of this. I love the body of this. It's definitely you know, think about hiking in the Alps, and that's kind of what I think of when I sip this wine. Probably because you can see the Dolomites, but I do like this example. This is, as Pinot Grigio goes, it is a little bit on the pricier side for what you'll see. I think in our locations it's retailing around $18-20 a bottle. So it's on the higher side for a Pinot Grigio, but this drinks like an excellent white wine. I think well worth that price point. What I would add to your description for acidity, I can't really add much, because I think the way you describe how you perceive it is exactly how I was taught to do it. A couple things I would only add to that. One is, I think salinity is a little bit different from acidity. Salinity is almost kind of like a seasoning or a salty character. You kind of think about sea breezes would contribute the salinity. They could be related, but I don't think they're the same. And the second is more on the red wine side, but acidity versus tannin. I tend to feel tannin in the front of my gums, and I find acidity kind of further back in the mouth. And it's, as you pointed out, tannin doesn't make you salivate. Acidity makes you salivate, and that's how you can kind of detect it in a red wine. Obviously not drinking a red wine tonight, but in the event we were, that's pretty much all I would add.
Yeah. And I mean, I would also encourage people, as you're tasting through wines, to like do the acidity check. When I first learned, somebody told me like, oh, like 2 seconds means, you know, low acidity, like 6 to 8 seconds means high acidity. But, you know, it's your perception and it's your taste buds. So like where I might, you know, determine something's high acid because I keep salivating after like longer than 8 seconds, you know, whereas you it's a different time for you. It's just a matter of just trying different wines and kind of figuring out like, okay, this is low acidity. This is kind of how much I start to salivate after that. This is high acidity, and this is how I know. And, try between white wines and red wines, like you said, because red wines can have good acid.
It's a good I think practice that you recommend. Um, so I see a couple of comments from Creasa. I know Creasa was able to get get a bottle of this wine, and she chimes in, totally worth the price. Thank you for that. That's good feedback. We appreciate it. Um, what is it telling us about the terroir climatic conditions? That's a good question. I'll take a stab at that myself first, and then Stacy, if you could maybe add your impressions. But I would, I think the minerality, I think, speaks to the soil character that you see there. It's definitely kind of like a limestone type character that you get, or a whetstone, and so it tells you a little bit about the soil character there. Um, it's a bigger example of a Pinot Grigio. You are on sloped vineyards there. You've got some sun exposure and moderated by the cool breezes. So perhaps that sun exposure maybe allows for, I don't want to call it juicier, but certainly a bigger bodied Pinot Grigio white wine. So those would be, and then the floral characters kind of coming through. Again, this is a European winemaker, so minimal intervention in the cellar tends to be the norm much of the time. And so because of that, you get the natural kind of expression of the grape as well. So is there anything you would add to that, Stacey?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I think the minerality really goes to show the terroir, the conditions. And to me, when I first drank this, it kind of reminded me of a Pinot Gris, just with the minerality in the body. And you can kind of tell that since it has that like whetstone characteristic that really, and like the floral characteristics that really kind of hit you up front, rather than the citrus, you can tell that it's grown in a cooler climate. So.
Good. Yeah, I think those are great observations. I'm gonna open. I'd like to open it up. Anyone in the audience have any impressions of either what they're drinking, or of this wine, or another example of a Pinot Grigio, or anything else? I see we have Corey. Corey says old world winemaking at its best. Absolutely, Corey. We're really. I think our kind of portfolio focus is really about that, and that's I think what we like about these wines is exactly that. It's like you really let the characters of the grape, of the land, show their way through, versus trying to over extract in the cellar or over oak it or something like that, and you really, I think, get some nice characters.
And I don't know if you mentioned, but Villa Corniole is they harvest by hand. So that just means it's usually because of the steep slopes. It's kind of harder to get machinery up there, but.
That's right. So everything is hand tended, hand harvested. It is called heroic viticulture. If Francesco is still on, good morning to you, Francesco, because it is like 1:20 in the morning there. But Francesco is familiar with heroic viticulture because he lives on the other side of the north of Italy, which is the Valtellina, where they also have steep slopes with vineyards, and they have terracing, and everything has to be done by hand. And it's very precarious. You see pictures of people carrying baskets of wine on their backs, looking down these steep slopes, and it's kind of it's a similar thing from Valtellina to Trentino, and Yes, Francesco just chimes in there. It seems to be a quality Pinot Grigio. We agree. We're pleased with it, and I think we've had a nice reception with this one so far.
So I saw a couple things, Russ. What temperature are Pinot Grigio supposed to be kept at?
Thank you. I did see that and I missed that. I apologize. Good question. So to give you what I would do, I would put this in the refrigerator for no more than an hour and bring it out and maybe leave it out for 15 minutes. And whatever temperature that gets you to is probably the right temperature. I don't think you want this one to be cold, to be ice cold. You probably want to serve it. We'll use imperial units here, but 45 degrees, maybe 50 degrees. A lighter bodied style, you may want more of a chill on it though, and there it would be good to have a little bit of a colder Pinot Grigio. But this one I would probably serve 45, 50 degrees. In the absence of having a thermometer, put it in the fridge for an hour, take it out for 15 minutes, serve it at exactly that temperature. And I think I've actually, with drinking this wine in the past, I've noticed that as it warms up, you kind of have, it actually develops even a little bit more. And do you have a different view, Stacy, or?
No, I mean, kind of what you said, you don't want it to be ice cold. They always say chill it to kill it, and you'll kind of kill off some of the flavors. So if it's a little bit on the warmer side, that's kind of odd to say, but if it's not ice cold, then, you'll be able to pick up more of the flavors of the different characteristics, floral and fruity aromatics that are in there. And so a couple things too that I saw was, somebody said that they didn't really hold Pinot Grigios in high esteem, which is kind of fair to say. There are a lot that are like mass marketed and mass produced, but once you get to these smaller producers, especially from, smaller regions like Trentino, you kind of see the quality increase, and they're there to show the terroir. They're not necessarily there to just sell it at a good value. I lived in New Jersey for a couple years, and so Pinot Grigio is definitely, I had a lot of Pinot Grigios, so I got to taste different stuff, and I wouldn't necessarily write the varietal off entirely. Like if you're looking for a different style of Pinot Grigio, just try to get something that's, a specific appellation or a boutique producer, not necessarily a very well-known producer.
And I'd say, as far as the label, look for Trentino, look for Alto Adige. Those are good regions to find a good quality Pinot Grigio, including this one. Krisa asks, what food would you pair with this? I would pair fish with it, actually, or maybe even a soft cheese. I think it could work well with either of those. What do you think, Stacy? Any other?
I think that soft cheeses, summer salads, it's really refreshing. You can drink it on its own. I wouldn't pair it with something that's super heavy because you might lose the aromatics. Maybe stay away from something that's super, super creamy. But yeah, seafood for sure.
Yeah, I think to that point, like a pasta, even like a pasta with a clam sauce or something like that. But again, something not like a heavy cream, but maybe a little bit lighter. I think it would go just fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
That is terrific. And we see T. Lausch says, New Jersey restaurants sell more Pinot Grigio than Chardonnay.
That they do. Number one by the glass in New Jersey is Pinot Grigio. Cheers.
Yeah, you've got some experience with that. So,
yeah.
Excellent. Any other impressions or feedback from Good night, Francesco. Have a good night. Any other? Just going through the. Think we, I think we hit everything that came up. Did we miss anything, or does anybody have any further impressions or questions? We'll give a little bit of time there with the chat box, and as we do that, where to find this wine. We have 6 placements for this Pinot Grigio at the moment in Maryland. We have in Baltimore City, 1 block away from where I sit here is the Idle Hour. They have it on their Disco Wine Shop wall. It's up at the Wine Source in Hamden, which is the premier fine wine store in the city of Baltimore. Down in Montgomery County, we are at Beer Wine and Company in Chevy Chase and Gillies in Rockville. And then over in Howard County, we have Absolutely Wine and Spirits and Dorsey's Search Wine and Spirits, 2 relatively new partners for us. So Corey asks, would it marry well with an aged cheddar? An aged, an aged might be too much for it. You know, with anything, you could always try and see how it goes. Certainly a younger cheddar or a milder cheddar, I think, would work okay. I don't know about an age, though. The age might be a little too much. What do you think, State? I should let you answer some of these first.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I agree with that. I think it might be a little too overpowering, but also keep in mind when we say pairing suggestions, like it is your palate. So sometimes I'll say 2 things don't work together and you can call me crazy because you like it. So yeah. I mean, like Russ said, try it out. If you like it, cool. If not,
exactly. At the end of the day, who cares? It's not that it's not as complicated as some people might want you to believe it is. In reality, all it really matters is, do you like it? And if the answer is yes, then full speed ahead.
Yeah.
So.
And then, and the one thing I was gonna say too, when you were mentioning who sells the Villa Corniole, they also have, as you said, the Ramato. And so a lot of these places also carry the Ramato, which I would totally encourage you guys to try. It's Pinot Grigio, but it sees some skin contact. And since their Ramato only sees a couple hours, it still maintains the floral aromatics and the fruit notes. So it's not like you're just trying an interesting wine. You know, you can drink it and go back for another glass or another bottle. So most stores have both.
Yeah, and it is as orange wine is kind of a trendy thing. We picked up this wine because it's really good. It drinks well. We like it. We like everything in our book, quite honestly.
We do.
But you know, I think being a trend is okay, but at the end of the day, all that matters is whether the wine is good, and we're getting good reception on the Ramato also. So I would definitely encourage you to try that. And Corey, thank you as well. Krisa chimes in, the high acidity might help it cut through the aged cheddar with the fat. So, which again, it always pays just to try something. I mean, worst case is not the best thing in the world. Sometimes it might be really cool. So you don't know until you try. Something really cool to talk about is next month's wine of the month. Yay. Next month's wine of the month. Can I get a drum roll? It is the Luciano Landi Gavigliano Lacrima di Moro d'Alba. Lacrima is a grape grown in the Marche region. It almost went extinct. It was brought back by several families, including the Landi family, who is now 3rd generation, run by the grandson, Gabriel. In addition to this, they make a couple outstanding Verdicchio wines that we're having a ball with. Lacrima is kind of an obscure grape. It is intensely aromatic and excellent for the summer. And our objective at Wide Roots is to make it no longer obscure. We're here to get the word out about Lockerman. We're going to do that. And Stacy's been doing that this week. We picked up several new placements of it, and we're excited to get it out in the market because we think when people taste this wine, they're going to say, wow, because it is unique and different. And most importantly, it's good. So can't wait to talk about that next month. Any other comments you would make about that, Stacy?
No, I mean, well, yeah, but I'll save them for next month.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. Good call. Well, let's not steal May's thunder in April.
Right.
All right. Well, with that, I'd like to thank everybody who joined. Stacy, thank you. You're a rock star, and
I try.
You know your stuff, and I'm glad to be working with you. So, look forward to continuing to do these and getting the word out about our wines.
Me too. So yeah, thanks guys for joining.
All right.
Catch you
Thanks,
next month,
everybody.
I guess.
As they say in Italy, ciao, ciao, arrivederci, bevi italiano. Good night. Buona serata.